10.
Hello and welcome to Imp's LOP Radio Venture, or Imp on LOP, or LOP on YouTube, whatever I bloody called it this time. There's your first swear. I'm going to swear more. It's lockdown period. So anyway, live on, where's my list? Where am I live? Where am I live? I'm live on Spreaker. I'm live on YouTube. This will be going out on places like iHeart Radio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. This will be going out to there as well. So this is also currently, as well as I said before, in this lockdown situation. Trying to do my best because I wanted to improve kind of the video experience, and currently it's just picture of me. It's cartoon me, looks a lot like me. Credit to Ash from the Wrestling Shorts YouTube channel for designing that and drawing it and letting me use it for all the piratey designs that he did as well. But yeah, so I've wanted like physical me. I can use this image I've made here as more of the kind of loading slate, and then it goes to picture of actual me, but lockdown, not in a normal situation right now. Not exactly super necessary to ship that out to me, so currently in limbo, I guess the best way to put it. But you're stuck with cartoon Imp, which on podcast form you don't give a crap about any of that because you can't see anything anyway. So anyway, today the topic: wrestling in lockdown. Is it shit? Time to find that out. It's been a couple of months now in this period of quarantine, so there's a catalogue building to look back on. Taking out the commendability of the effort, hell, I guess even a tad of the situation that's at large at the moment, are the shows any good? Like, are they worth watching? In terms of entertainment, are these shows any good? Which it's just that, because I know beforehand I was talking about how they're coping. That show's done surprisingly well. It's talking about how they're coping. And I've also just done individual things. I've not really addressed AEW since I talked about them on that show in terms of how are they doing and how are WWE doing. So this is like the first time in like a month that I really have talked about them. But it's just the question of what are the quality of the shows. And obviously that comes down to opinion, a lot of it as well. The numbers for Raw in America keep slipping. I've not looked at the numbers over here in the UK, but the numbers were never massive to begin with anyway. It's like a hardcore has watched WWE. Yet it's not gone up, it's not gone down. Same hardcore, always watched WWE. And I have no idea what the BT numbers are as well, because that would have been, like, you would assume immediately it'd be less than it was, but then new people come as well who had BT Sport. Anyway, it's an odd one. To be perfectly honest, I don't really know. Also, before I jump into the topic properly, I'll be starting with WWE because that's the one that most people care about. Then I'll be going to AEW. AEW is the most recent I've watched, and I didn't actually finish the episode because I thought it'd be free, but I wasn't free. I've been collabing with former. I'm so tired. I've been doing a running column throughout this week, putting it together. Mav from the right side, formerly of the right side of the pond, now I guess, person who now then writes down in the columns forum for Laws of Pain. He's happily retired, I guess. He's been doing a long running series throughout this lockdown, talking to all sorts of people from Lord of Pain's history and current time. I'm somebody, I guess, from the current times, and everybody, like including Hustle, where if you've been a long time kind of person who's been keeping up with Laws of Pain as well, Hustle is like a massive name in terms of that. Like if you back on Monday Night Raws back in the Attitude Era, you'd see signs like Hustle's posting right now, and like Hustle was a pretty well-known name in the wrestling online media circles, I guess, in a way. Just a known writer. Anyway, so Mav even got Hustle, just to say the level of people he's getting in this series, and for some reason I'm this week's. It's just to see that the level of person he's had on it, and he wanted me to be in that series as well. So I'd cut. Let's just say it was I didn't want to call it an honour because that's a little bit too high. But yeah, so I've been busy doing that this week. So that should post tomorrow, I think, actually. But as far as I know, it's not finished, and I've sent like massive rambles of text. So I don't know if he needs to kind of do it. It's like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. I watched that this week. I was laughing because I said that I didn't want. I was laughing because I didn't really want to, like, the anxiety levels. I didn't want kind of the reflections of what's going on in the real world that you kind of get when you watch like the WWE or AEW shows. That reflection of what's going on in reality, just watching those shows, you kind of feel it there. And as somebody not from America, it's kind of hitting home just the, what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? And that's reflected in the wrestling shows to even in a minor degree. It's just the fact I'm watching them is kind of there. I'm able to distance in with one more than the other, which I'll get to in a second. But I was like, oh yeah, I don't want those like anxieties of life kind of cropping up really. And that's what I was writing that. I was like, you watched Apocalypse Now yesterday. It's just, yeah, that film doesn't like build anxiety towards like the social situations or anything. Like, no, nice, calm. There's no social commentary at all. It's just like, I made myself laugh at that one. Yeah, that was a put on laugh just then, just to add to it. But still, it was, yeah. And that was a bit off topic. But yes, I'll be in written form because I've not written a column in about a month. And I'll get into it with this here. This isn't me rambling about nonsense. It does link. So I've not written anything in a month. The main reason being, I've just kind of distanced from wrestling. And as I just said there, with the Apocalypse Now mini side ramble, that I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say pissed off with the wrestling world right now, but I would say that I'm disinterested, but it's all, I don't have that feeling where I feel like I need to check in and watch. Like, I came very close to not watching AEW this week, and that wasn't down to like, oh my god, what are people saying on Twitter? It's just like, oh my god, I can't believe Cody beat Allen, that's awful. For me, that came down more to, if you are somebody who supported Darby Allin a bit more, or you preferred his story, then you were like, oh god, it's awful, he lost. I was like, no, that's good that you support him that much. That's good. You cared about him losing. That's the entire point of it. That means what they're doing is working. If you care that much that they lost, but anyway, so it was more to do with just the feeling overall right now between me and wrestling. I feel like I want to kind of step back a bit. Normally, throughout the summer, WWE does something that makes you just go, no. Like, they'll do the Saudi Arabia show, and then the actual product around it will suffer in consequence because of that Saudi Arabia show. And like all the stuff that has to happen to set that show up, and then it's always crap. And then the shows that follow obviously have been hindered by the focus on Saudi Arabia. So it's like a warping effect for a mini while. And like, normally, it's after a Saudi Arabia show, normally I'll tune out. The past 2 years, since I've been doing them, I have tuned out of WWE all summer. When I say all summer, I tune him back in for SummerSlam at like the end of the summer. But I normally jump to New Japan. Because the thing that helps is New Japan is my number one promotion. It's like when I say, I stopped watching WWE, I would make a quick note. This week has been absolutely knackering for me. So I was ready for bed at 9:30. I was ready to go, and it's now like 10 past midnight. So I will stumble over my words as my brain isn't working. Heed of warning, I guess. Anyway, but yeah, when I say I stopped watching WWE, that wasn't like, oh my god, the wrestling I watched just annoyed me so much I just need to stop watching. It's like, no, I watch a lot of wrestling. Me saying that I stopped watching WWE, that's one of the many, and there isn't this kind of blind loyalty I have to support like anybody. Like, AEW is a personal preference right now. They seem to be ticking more boxes for me personally. But if they do something to piss me off, they're not. I have no loyalty to a brand, type of thing. Like, business, the thing I've always seen it as, like, businesses are not your friends, and if they seem to be rewarding you, just want to keep you as a customer. Some companies are better than others, and that's kind of like the WWE thing. Which company was I looking at in the Sega in the 90s? They built up a lot of goodwill, and they burned it in terms of their consoles and everything. Where they were top of the world, and then suddenly just keep releasing weird, I guess, expanding parts of their games console instead of just bringing out a new thing, and just goodwill was burnt in that time. So, yeah, why is that my point of comparison? It's such a random, nerdy point of comparison. My point being that when I say, oh, stop watching WWE, that's normally just because I can see the quality is not going to be there for a little while. Last year was way above anything. Like when it was the wild card rule on top of the Saudi Arabia stuff, which warps it anyway. Then there was the wild card rule. Then there was like storylines seemingly. You'd see one thing happen one week and things weren't sticking. It's like they were throwing random crap at the wall. And at that point, I was just kind of like, right, I'm just going to stop watching and I'll come back when things have settled down. I came back in for SummerSlam and I enjoyed the SummerSlam show itself, but I quickly realised that overall it was it was nowhere near as bad as it was, but it was kind of like in a settling down kind of thing, as in it was finding its structure again. And what kind of sucks for the whole like COVID thing was like Monday Night Raw had found its run, it found its flow. The only issue for me being 3 hours is too long. It always outstays its welcome, even if I'm enjoying it. It's I don't know if that's a personal thing, or if that's like a more general consensus-y type of thing, where even if I enjoy the shows, overall it's too much, and I'm waiting for it to end rather than like, oh my god, I can't wait till next week, like during the main event, which is always a shame. And that means when I tune back in on Monday, I very rarely have that feeling where Monday Night Raw has ended and suddenly I'm like, I've got to watch the next episode, I can't wait to Raw. It's like, no, it's outstayed its welcome every week, so that feeling isn't there. I tune in because I'm a wrestling fan. I love wrestling and all that. I'm going off topic. I meant to bring it back. So when I say I start watching WWE, that doesn't mean I've tuned out of most of wrestling. I'll still see Raw, SmackDown stuff on my Twitter feed anyway, so I'm not cut off from wrestling. But New Japan is my number one promotion, and that's what really helps. So, for example, for the past 2 years, WWE do their Saudi Arabia thing, the bubble warps, and it takes a little while to settle back down. Last year was mental, like regardless of the Saudi Arabia thing, so I was able to tune out, go over to Japan, and be nice and happy. And then come back for SummerSlam when things have settled down a bit, they got a big show to focus on. This year, I don't have that. There is no New Japan. They have cancelled all of their shows. You know, given the severity of what's going on, I guess a quick comparison is when I'm talking about a foreign promotion and they're stopping running shows and things, America is the only country operating like it is. And there is a reason for that, not in terms of, I was going to say politics, but not in terms of, because it's different, you can't, the big thing that with this whole situation was they were saying you cannot compare country to country because each individual country is so different, and it's kind of each country is so different. It's not quite right to compare. You have to look at them individually and kind of just look at the numbers they're in and what people have done in other countries that has worked, kind of thing, and focus in on those little areas. Direct comparisons isn't really the way to go because they are so different. But again, in terms of wrestling, the fact it's even still going on is like a massive thing for me. So, as I was saying, AEW have ticked more of my boxes. The thing that has really helped, and I said I'd bring this up earlier, the thing that has really helped is, especially in comparison to WWE, where they're live every single week. And I'm just like, why are you getting people in to travel to the show to wrestle in this current environment when it is dangerous? And there's a whole world that I've already covered that around it about WWE being ruled essential, but it's on my conscience when I am watching WWE. This won't be the case for everybody. A lot of people will be perfectly fine with this, but for me, when I am watching WWE, my conscience is there. I'm like, my morality meter ticks. And again, Mav was telling me earlier this week that it is. Probably shouldn't. You pay a bit too much attention to that. Otherwise, WWE would just piss you off. Like, regardless of this situation that will happen anyway. But you just put your morality meter to the side when you watch WWE, because, you probably shouldn't start watching WWE if that's an issue for you. Because you will find out things. Side note, Dark Side of the Ring has been bloody fantastic. I realise I'm covering up the chat as well. I'm an idiot. Both on Spreaker and on the YouTube version, you can send me messages and things, and I'll read them out if I see them. Obviously, if you're a dick, I won't. It's just, I've been quite lucky, actually. It's weird. When I started doing, because I've been doing columns on lordsofpain.net, and I've been doing these podcasts here for Lords of Pain Radio, this is really like the first year where the interaction has really jumped up a lot. And I'm just like, I've not really encountered any dicks, like, directly. The only time I did was for not being racist, and it wasn't even my column. So somebody went off at me for not being racist. That was the only time. I'll be perfectly honest. That's the only time I've ever had someone being a bit of a knob just come directly at me, and that was it was odd because it wasn't even my column. There's like, oh yeah, that. But yeah, so I've been quite lucky so far. All of this, I've not really encountered anyone, and even as numbers go up, as numbers go down, as the column, if a column does really well, if a column does badly, it doesn't matter. The lines are still the same. Just yeah, like even in critique, they're nice critique. It's odd. What's wrong with you, internet? Nobody's like this. I think Laws of Pain is lucky that we've got Tito, who attracts a lot of that kind of attention, and the rest of us kind of get the drip feed system of just the nicer people who are just going through. Or it's an odd one. Maybe it's, I don't know. I was told the way that you write or the way that you talk, the manner in which you do that will attract that kind of listener, that kind of fan. So if you talk overtly negative, then that's the kind of response you will get. I guess JD from New York is a really good example of that. If you talk in a certain way, then that is the manner of which the audience you will attract. Me, I'm chirpy chappy from England. Whenever I have a guest on, it's more like a chat around a cup of tea. Don't really do interviews, as in people who I've had on in the past. I've not really interviewed. It's just a chat around a cup of tea. Yeah, just talk about wrestling with a nice hot cocoa. I said cup of tea, but not everyone drinks tea. Let's involve everybody. So yeah. I probably should kick up stuff like that again. Quickly running out of content as I'm not watching, because that's the other thing as well. So with WWE being live to get back on track, that my conscience is worrying. That thing is there that I know that they are physically there every single week, and they are putting themselves at risk every single week. When I'm watching AEW, the massive difference is that it's taped. Yes, I am against the fact that they taped it in the first place, but it is taped. I'm watching that and I'm like, they are not there right now. They are at home and safe. So there is that. The thing that kind of irked me a bit, just to prove my point of, as in, yes, I'm appreciating them more, but I don't have a blind loyalty. You shouldn't have a blind loyalty for any business, really, because you probably get taken advantage of. But that's a very negative way. I look at the world quite negatively, it turns out, even though I'm a chirpy chappy. But yeah, so with AEW, they announced last week that first the news was coming out that they were going to be going live again. What the report meant was they'll be getting together to do Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing would go out live, I think. Then the first episode of AEW would also go live, but at that point they would also do a bulk record again. Meaning that outside of that week where they do Double or 3 or 4 day period from Saturday to Wednesday, in that period, they will go live on both of those shows, then they will record again. Given the actual gravity of the situation, because it's really difficult to talk about, because it's really irritating that in America it's become political, because it isn't anywhere else. So when I'm talking about it, it's from a European point of view. So you've got the European perspective, I guess the Oceania perspective, the Asian perspective, African perspective. It's only America, and that is my core audience. It's really difficult to talk about. Yeah, it's not political. But in America, it is political, so it's automatically becoming it, even though it's really difficult for me to talk about it without entering that world, as in just talking about the topic now. I've said the word political quite a lot, but that's only because it is in America. It isn't anywhere else. I'm just trying to get that across, that I am not being political. It may sound it to you if you are in America listening to it, and you're of a certain line of thinking, where, yeah, I am, yes. Anyway, just to bring it back, these shows should not be happening. Wrestling should have stopped, like everything else. Is it essential? Piss off, is it essential? No, these shows should not be happening. WWE being live every single week, I really struggle to watch the shows and enjoy them as much. I can enjoy bits of them and things. With WrestleMania, I was saying that I can selfishly say that I may be against the danger that people are putting themselves in to do the shows in the first place, the effort, the commendability of the effort, as I brought up earlier. But I can selfishly say that, I enjoyed those shows, even if I am against the way they were made. And it's the same thing here. I can enjoy the shows for a bit, but I am against the way they are being made. They should not be being made, is the end point of it. But they are. As in it's... you kind of look at it and just go, they did teach about the plague in American schools, right? It's a massive thing. That there was the what bloody year was it? It's 1918 the 1918 flu, whatever that was, because that'd be... It's a bit more complicated than just the 1980, because that's when it became massive, but it was spread to Europe from America in 1917 and then obviously grew in 1918. So yeah, like this COVID here, where it's called COVID-19, even though the big explosion is 20. So yeah, not because it's the 19th one. It is not. Coronavirus disease 2019 is what COVID-19 means. I've explained that so many times. How many viewers have I lost? Like 1. That's actually quite good. Anyway, but no, that's a massive side tangent. But yeah, so WWE, that is there, and I've been enjoying AEW because that morality ticker thing isn't there because it's not live. It is taped, it is recorded. They are not there doing that when I'm watching it, and that really helps. Knowing that those people recorded in bulk and then went home and stayed safe. WWE, they are constantly in danger for every show I'm watching, for no reason. This isn't a thing that should be happening at all, but it is, and I understand totally why. And part of tackling this disease was to create to do everything you can to create a feeling that there's no pressure to get back to work. That is like one of the ways to tackle it. It's fair to say in that respect, America was not set up for it in any way, and there is a massive pressure to get back to work, to a point where it's you see what's happening now today. I won't get any more into it, and that is what's happening, I guess, right here as well. There's that pressure to work, and in that respect, America has failed miserably. It's difficult. Again, I'm not talking about that in a political way. I just mean specifically in measuring the coronavirus disease and doing your best against it. That is a massive red flag. I'm in a country with multiple red flags too. just to put that out there as well. It's like, yes, I am very aware that in Britain we are, if I'm right, like for example in testing, we are per million worse than America. So if I'm right, us and America are like right next to each other in the table. I can't remember how far down we are. We're not at the top in terms of testing, just to put that out there. I think we were like 6th or 7th down in this, like the tiered list, both of us. If you're like measuring it per million, who's doing the most tests, actually, who's doing the most tests per million, and like us in America, we're lower than America. So yeah, just put that there. We are not doing that great a job ourselves, but we are at least staying in lockdown. And the pressure to get back to work isn't as much there because as being dirty socialists, suddenly we've got protections to stop us from feeling like we're forced to go back to work. There's a different aspect here in terms of entertainment. And that's where it branches over to AEW as well, where there's that need to... Where's that feeling like we are doing this to give you some entertainment in this dark time. And WWE and AEW seem to be going about it slightly different ways. With the Raw and SmackDown being live every single week. Is NXT live as well? But surely they are. And AEW going live that other week. Because I put out a tweet when I found out. I was like, I'm just saying, I'm dead set against this. If they do switch to going live, I won't watch them. Which is what's happened with Raw and SmackDown. So in terms of me saying I probably should start talking about guests because I am running out of content because I am not watching Raw, SmackDown or NXT. These past 2 weeks, since WrestleMania, I think I might have watched the first Raw and then I didn't watch SmackDown. I've not watched anything since. Just like YouTube clips and stuff now. Not YouTube, like stuff I see on Twitter. I'll click a GIF, for example. But AEW I've continued to watch. And I'm pretty certain part of it is because I know they are not there physically. They are at home, they are fine. But at Double or Nothing, that changes. When I cover, and that's the other thing as well, me doing Aftershock for Lords of Pain, I will be watching the pay-per-views, I'll be talking about them and covering them. And obviously with my morality ticker, and me not even watching Raw and SmackDown, I'm in for a different boat. Oh, what am I talking about? I'm in for a different trip than a few other people when I watch Money in the Bank. Oh, there's another tagline that came out today which is hilarious. I was going to search for it, but nope. Instead, I just knocked the charger out of my phone, like every normal person does. But yeah, I've entered full on ramble. To be fair, yeah. So that pressure is there, and that irritates me. That's a very, very personal look at it. In terms of, I guess described as a personal bias, but that's not the right word. As in, my personal outlook on this other thing directly affects my viewing of the shows, and if AEW were to join the same thing, then I'd struggle to watch that as well. They are not separate from this. So, and normally I jump to New Japan at this point, but that doesn't exist right now. They are in limbo with the rest of the world. The only reason these shows exist because they're in America and they can benefit from wrestling being named essential, which it never should have been. So yeah, but in terms of the actual quality of said shows, so obviously I'm judging Raw, SmackDown, and NXT off different stuff, but word of mouth in terms of Raw and SmackDown, specifically Raw. I'll start with Raw actually. Let's split them up. Monday Night Raw, word of mouth is pretty good, with the fact that they're too long. Which is like as soon as I was seeing like the messages and listening to the various podcasts and commenters on things on Twitter and different news sites, it's just like I can relate to that where I've enjoyed Monday Night Raw, but it was too long, and by the end of it I was kind of there's a growing feeling of wrestlers of the actual size of the roster being felt a little bit as you're seeing repeat matches. Case in point was Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, where I can't remember who was listening to talk about this, but it made me laugh, where they. In the build-up, we're talking about Liv Morgan because they're promoting her pretty well. They've done that with quite a few people, like Apollo Crews as well. He's been lifted pretty damn well in this era. But with Liv Morgan, another one, they were talking about how after last week she defeated Ruby Riott, and then it's time for her to move on. What's going to be her next thing? And she's accomplished this. She's bested Ruby Riott. Liv Morgan can now move on to the next challenge, and after the break, she will prove that by having a rematch against Ruby Riott. It's just, I saw some complaints, whilst I just found that funny. It's just like, yeah, like the story they're telling and reality had a little bit of a clash there, where the story they wanted to tell of Liv Morgan triumphing over her former stablemate leader in Ruby Riott, and now she's ready to prove that she has moved past Ruby Riott. She's going to do that by facing Ruby Riott. It's just the story of Liv Morgan moving on and progressing her career and climbing that ladder, but also everywhere's in lockdown, and a lot of wrestlers, the side of the roster they've actually got to work with is way, way smaller. So maybe don't jump up the ladder that quickly and just stay on a rung or in between rungs. It's just, you're going to have to play this slowly and a lot more wiser, get creative. And that's the other thing as well. I'm seeing a lot of praise for WWE when they've got their back against the wall. They are forced to get creative. That's exactly what they are doing in this situation. And that's great to hear. That's great to see. Even if it's like, I guess even though I've talked about my morality compass, the number one reason is there's something about the WWE production. They've adapted really well. It's just not my cup of tea. With these empty arena shows, the way that they're producing it, I was in for the ride, the way to WrestleMania. But after that, when these empty arena shows have continued, I'm just like, no, it's just not clicking for me in that kind of long-term prospect. Where I was fine with it for a short amount of time, but when this is the product now, it's just not for me. And that doesn't, and put that on top of the morality ticker, and I'm just, it's not really working for me. But it is good to see the positives around Monday Night Raw. SmackDown seems to be in a very similar comparison position as they were before the COVID-19 issues. So, like, Monday Night Raw, before all this went down, Monday Night Raw had hit a nice flow. They were building really well. What really helped, obviously, was Drew McIntyre winning the Royal Rumble. That don't hurt. And they were building really nicely. Their storylines to be flowing relatively well. They were building new stars to a pretty damn strong degree. Things were going well. Whilst, for me, SmackDown was displaying every single trait of WWE that I dislike, all packed up into one show. Like, described it the other day as the all-in-one unhappy meal at WWE McDonald's, where it's just, or at WWE, the all-in-one unhappy meal. And I I really didn't like SmackDown. And with my column, because I was doing a weekly column where I was talking about all 4 shows, Dynamite, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, and some weeks I'd post something completely different. What happened there? I was watching one of the shows and it was normally SmackDown, and I was just like, sod this. I'm just going to write about something else. Just a completely different topic so I don't have to continue watching SmackDown. Like, again, that is a 100% opinion thing, because I know there are quite a few people where this new SmackDown on Fox, it is way more up their street than what a different show is doing, be it like NXT, Raw, AEW, whatever. In terms of what I like, nah, like so against it. I think the only thing that I definitely gravitated towards was The Fiend, but I was having to ignore a lot of stuff or put pieces together that weren't necessarily definitely there, but they did. Like, I was making sense of what they were presenting to me. I was doing what I could to use those pieces and put the story together myself. And in the nature of The Fiend, it kind of encourages that. So it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole. And I was genuinely enjoying doing that in a way. But like for the rest of the show, yeah, give or take, really. Like, Mandy versus Otis, some people got really behind that. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, I've never really gotten into these storylines, really. It's just the way they tell them isn't going to get me invested, but I could see it was working, so kudos there. And yes, yeah, for SmackDown on Fox, just the nature of it is just not for me. So when I was kind of forcing myself, but it seems to be a slightly similar thing here as well. When Monday Night Raw is pushing that new talent, and it's like, that's a new land of opportunity, I guess, in a way. And it seems to be like in a massive positive way as well. Just building new stars. Apollo Crews and Aleister Black really jumping up. Liv Morgan, who I've already mentioned, like really benefiting from this system. Asuka's getting a lot of focus. She was before, but since WrestleMania, you really feel it. Obviously, it helps Drew McIntyre as well. Seth Rollins too, with Kevin Owens not there. He's kind of stepped up to the plate too, as well, to be that first challenger to Drew McIntyre. Jinder Mahal's back. We'll see how that goes. But they were ginning it in this week that Jinder Mahal is a former world champion. And maybe it's because they're low on former world champions, so they're going to push him seriously. But McIntyre versus Mahal, do not be surprised if that comes up relatively shortly as like the next title thing. Personally, I would have that take place over the course of maybe 1 Raw, 2 at most. As in, bring that up, do the match. Which is something that WWE have done before. Like, you bring up something that is relevant, like Mahal and McIntyre were both in 3MB. You don't particularly want to hinge a pay-per-view championship match on that story, but you do want to like make sure that you have like brought that up to attention and addressed it, that you have addressed that fact. You can do that on 1 Raw. You don't need to build a full pay-per-view build to that. Yeah, that'd be my personal preference. But they are obviously a much tighter roster. There's a lot less to work with, and I guess it's not the end of the world if they do go to Mahal McIntyre immediately. Or quicker than I would do it, or at a higher level than I would do it, given the situation. Because again, in terms of what would Imp do? Well, in a dream world, that pressure to work isn't there, therefore they don't work. As in, they don't feel forced to have to go. And you hear the talk about how bad it is with the people getting furloughed and things, and it's such a different narrative over here to that word. It is crazy to hear how negative the connotations are in America to it compared to over here. So, yeah, it's a little bit, I guess, worrying that they have to continue. And how dry will things get depending on how long this lasts? Because like a state rules it fine to go out. Like, in actual fact, the virus is still there. So like Roman Reigns isn't going to return. Like, in terms of SmackDown, as I was slowly moving on to, like, Roman Reigns isn't coming back until this virus is genuinely dealt with. It doesn't matter what state says, oh, it's fine now. Following the science, following the actual disease and tracking it and everything. Yeah, if Roman Reigns is playing it extremely wise, taking out that context of having to do something for WWE or SmackDown, just very personal to himself of, no, I am at risk doing these shows, so I'm not going to do them. But yeah, good for him, which is what, assumably, there are lots of people in that same situation. I don't know like how many of the foreign wrestlers, by foreign I can include Canadian as well, Like, how many of those did WrestleMania, then lockdowns were put in, and suddenly they can't even if they wanted to. Which is a realistic thing. That's what happened with a lot of the British wrestlers. Pete Dunne, that's why on NXT he got stripped of the title. Physically, cannot get to the shows. It's not going to happen. Even if America opens up, the UK isn't. So he's still not going to get there. So that is that situation. So, yeah. So I don't know. So again, hearing the slight complaint about Mahal McIntyre possibly being a thing, personally, given the depth they've got to work with, have at it. Like, if you must carry on with these shows, why not just stretch it out a bit? I guess it's not the end of the world. You're going to be desperate for content by the end of the summer or by the end of the year, depending on how long the serious nature of it is. Because they could grow the roster a bit, but like, for example, Roman Reigns is not going to return in those circumstances. It's going to have to be like genuinely dealt with, not politically dealt with, until Roman Reigns moves forward. And that's a realistic thing. And there'll be other people in the roster who probably feel the same way. Which is interesting, I guess, for, again, the depth they have. Mahal can... Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm not going to criticise them for pushing Mahal in that manner. Because they're low and they need people to keep it going. On the SmackDown side, personally, wouldn't have gone with Strowman Wyatt in the perfect circumstances. I don't know if they're going to... Because if the original plan was Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns at WrestleMania before Goldberg mucked it up and then Roman Reigns wasn't able to wrestle, then they went with... of course, by that point, Bray Wyatt's facing John Cena, so I guess we'll go Braun Strowman. But yeah, if that is a situation where they want the title on Wyatt, yeah. Obviously, I don't know what kind of match the two are going to have between each other. The main focus is really the Money in the Bank builds with those two matches where... I can look at it and I can go, the concept where WWE are forced creatively into a corner, they are doing it again. They're coming up with intuitive ideas and they're pre-recording their version of the raid. They're just climbing up to the top of WWE headquarters. I don't know which one I prefer. The raid, where each level has higher level ninjas to combat, or if it's... No, that race isn't right, but where it's your combatants and they just brawl through. The big example was that WWE advert, and it was brought to my attention. Oh, why am I forgetting names? Oh, I'm so sorry. Quick and Painless. You. I remember your podcast name. Why can't I remember your name? Yeah, brought to the attention of like the WWE advert, and there's like CGI explosions and things. I was just like, oh, yes. I doubt they have the budget and the editing kind of team to do it, but I'll be totally down for CGI explosions. Like, yes. Like, don't even try. Just bang, CGI explosion. You can maybe... I don't even think you can break the glass because you haven't got the level... the level of, I guess, quick replacement and, I guess, cleanup. That's not there, as it normally would be. But, yeah, totally be up for CGI explosions. The shot of the roof where it was like surrounded by trees and things, just very British reference of Day of the Triffids, which is about the Triffids like coming to life, or aliens that look like Triffids. I can't remember which one it was, but oh yeah, awesome movie. Really good movie, amazing at tension, with the added thing that these creatures move slowly, but the humans are now blind, so they can't move as quick either. So like, and they can't see this slow moving thing. Oh, it's genius. Genius at building up tension. And a British creation, so I can hype it up. Massive tangent. Anyway, so it looks interesting, I'll be perfectly honest. And again, it's the exact same thing I was saying earlier. I'm against the world in which this is being created, or the environment in which the match is being created. But I can be selfish and also say that the match itself does interest me. I'm really interested to see what they do. And the thing that I've kind of had my morality sticker taken away from me because I'm covering the pay-per-view for Lords of Pain. I don't have to watch the television, but I do have to cover the show for Lords of Pain on Aftershock. So I'll be live immediately after Money in the Bank to talk about it. I'm generally looking forward to what the hell it's going to be. That is nice. And I guess I'm proving in a way that in terms of assessing this situation with the mixture of emotions going on, it is not straightforward. I feel a multitude of things that do contradict each other. as I was saying, that I didn't want to watch WWE because of the moral conflict in me, but I am also excited for this random thing, Money in the Bank. Those two feelings do exist at the exact same time, even though they contradict each other. It's not an easy thing for me to digest, especially as it's taking place in a world so different to mine, in terms of like comparing America to the rest of the world. Like the world right now for America is so different to everywhere else that it's really weird for me to grasp and figure it out. So yeah. Which brings me to AEW, who've also got a pay-per-view on the horizon. I can't remember how many weeks into May it is, but I don't think it's many. And I'll also be live after that for AEW Aftershock Double or Nothing. Don't know if I'll have friends for that one, because normally I do, but I'll see it. Anyway, tangent. So, with Double or Nothing, there's a similar thing as well, where it's majority live show. I'm assuming there might be a pre-tape thing in there as well. They might get creative too. But overall, live show, wrestling featured. Their setup worked a little bit better in terms of the stuff. Obviously, with this setup you've been seeing on television, that was before like restrictions became even stricter. Like they were strict when they filmed it, but they had like people spaced out in the crowd. Now where the rules are even stricter, I don't know if they'd be able to do that. Like the reason they're able to see the crowd every week on an AEW show is because that was taped weeks ago. They are not there now in that situation. So when they do Double or Nothing or these new tapings, will that be there or not? I don't know. I like that environment that creates. It immediately makes it different, and the way that WWE presents the way AEW presents their wrestling makes it a lot easier to get into. Somebody pointed out that the reason they were finding AEW way easy to get into was because they were carrying on just as normal, just telling their stories like they would have anyway. Obviously, just like WWE, their roster is smaller. They can't really expand too far. There are a lot of stories that they can't really do, but they're carrying on like narratively in terms of what they're presenting. They're carrying on as normal. You don't get that sense of filler like you kind of do with WWE, but with that there is that feeling with WWE where there's a little bit of filler happening, where especially with repeat matches to that level. AEW, there isn't that. They're continuing to tell the stories as normal. NXT, seemingly about the stretching out takeover, for me, was a good idea. Doing that on the NXT shows themselves gave them a lot of content. Now we're in a weird bubble where there isn't really anything to get into, and the Candice LeRae and Gargano double heel turn, not really working for me, personally. I know they can do it, but that I'm not really... It's weird. I know they will be good at it, even if I'm not currently feeling it. I guess like one comparison might be like when NXT gets raided, like when the women's division got raided, and you saw the complaints of, oh god, it's empty, there's nothing there. Like within just a few months, it became stacked, and now it's incredibly stacked. It's just like same with New Japan when there was a talent exodus for AEW. Oh my god, and New Japan are no point in watching anymore. They're so bare. It was 3 months, and they were back on track. So there is that, right? Just give it time, type of thing. That's how I feel with Candice LeRae, Johnny Gargano. Not currently feeling it, but I'll give it time. I'll see if they click. I'll see if they do change my mind and things. So yeah. Anyway, that's a slight tangent. Maybe talking about AEW. So again, with AEW, they're continuing as normal. That's really helped. With Double or Nothing being live, yeah, I'll see what happens there. See the covering of it, but it's a similar feeling, similar conflict where I feel like I shouldn't morally I'm against the thing happening live. Wrestling shouldn't be happening. Entertainment wise, I know I'll be entertained by it. I know I'll enjoy it. Their style of wrestling's right up my tree, and I've enjoyed the way they've done the presentation on Dynamite as well. So like even a new batch of recordings isn't really going to change that if they do it in a similar vein. So it's a moral conflict also put together with the fact that their style of entertainment does work for me. It's a weird mix of emotions, which I'm finding hard to kind of talk about. So, yeah. So, final thing to do with AEW, the thing that has kind of helped as well with the flow is the TNT Championship. Personally, I'm fine with it. I prefer that to the name of Television Championship. I don't know why. Like, ECW had a TV Championship, WCW had a TV Championship, I think like lower below United States. Is that true? Or am I talking bollocks? But with that championship, I prefer. I'm fine with the name. Doesn't really matter. It very quickly becomes the name of the thing. my brother, he's got a relatively successful YouTube channel. That channel's called Arse Raptor. To me, that's just the name of the thing. to a few people, it's just like, oh, that's a bit graphic, or arse dinosaur. It's like really weird at two other ends of the spectrum. And for me, that's just the name of the thing. No feeling to it. That's just, again, just the name of the thing. TNT Championship, very quickly, that's just, it's the name of the thing. I know what it is. It doesn't sound that, I'm fine with it. That happened with, like, even with the Universal Championship, at first, like, I don't like it. I don't like the colour red. I didn't like a lot of it to do with the championship. Thought the name was a bit stupid, but very quickly just becomes the name of the thing, and then you're fine with it. So, yeah, very quick. But in terms of the way they're doing the tournament, I've enjoyed it. The setup for it, and of course it lent into, as we know now, spoilers for last night's show, Lance Archer and Cody both won their matches, so what was built up on when they were able to still be in a big arena, Lance Archer and Cody will now be facing each other in the finals. There was a bit of a kickback against Darby Allin. In terms of building new stars, Lance Archer is now in the final. There's a strong feeling of Cody winning, be it not for something else. So an outside interference or an MJF screw up again, or screwing, as in, because I don't know if he's doing the videos at his home because he genuinely can't be there but they want to keep him in people's minds, or if they're keeping him relevant but not having him physically be there. So if he is physically there at Double or Nothing and costs Cody, then it's unexpected and he's not in any storylines. They're not expecting him to be there. I like that idea that I've just came up with. As he recovers from accidentally doing he nipped his neck while shaving. It's just awful injury to have to succumb to, and hopefully he can recover in time for Double or Nothing in like 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it is. So I've got it in like 2 weeks. Bloody hell, if that's the date. Because for me, again, I'm England. I'm already into May. It's already started for me. So yeah, the future, what the future looks like. But yeah, the tournament has helped the show progress as well. There's that to build up to. Like with WWE, the Money in the Bank matches, the qualifying matches there, they do help with that. As the match gets more established and you start more directly building, it loses that a tad because you can't continue with the qualifying stuff. Sometimes they do that really well, like where everybody was at the top of the ladders having an argument. Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, I think Sami Zayn was there as well, Cesaro. Like, that was an awesome segment. I loved that. Sometimes they nail it. Sometimes it's just a bit Money in the Bank combatants have a tag match. And it's like, it reminds me that there is a match there, but there's no real animosity between any of the competitors there. I guess that's fine, whatever. Again, this year I've not watched enough of Raw SmackDown to really address that, but I have seen that the qualifying matches went down well. So the qualifying stage they nailed. It's just these last couple of weeks building up to the show, how do they handle those? Especially given it's such a different idea as well. Yeah. And it's been talking about AEW. So the TNT Championship Tournament has really helped, like, interest in terms of keeping on going as well. You got your normal stories building. I don't know as well if it's because it's closer to an indie presentation that the massive amount of fans not being there isn't as big of an issue. Because like AEW weren't selling out every single arena anyway, so it wasn't like a massive necessity in that way for the show. And again, being closer to an indie style where there are typically smaller audiences, like what we've got here, where is there even 10 people at ringside? Like, yeah, the style fits it, and they're focusing on the storytelling so strongly that it doesn't really affect it that much. It works for me. Then the Championship Tournament has been a nice investment. I addressed Cody versus Darby as well. It's a thing where in AEW, it's not as clean cut as you are good guy, you are bad guy. That means you only do your good guy things, or you only do bad guy things. Like it's a lot more fluid in AEW, and Cody healing it up a tad fits into that really, really well. That is something which doesn't really, like the Young Bucks versus Omega and Hangman. Like, there was a lot of heelish work from Young Bucks. Are they bad guys? No. The Elite are the goodies. End of that. But there's that. I like that addition. Just kind of nodding that, yes, Cody won, but it was like with a crucifix pin, like at the end locking it in. It wasn't a "I definitely beat you" type of thing. Like it's more like he survived Darby Allin than probably beat him, and he used underhanded tactics to do it as well. When you look at like the overall momentum of the match, so there is quite a bit. It wasn't a clean cut Cody win, definitely beat him type of thing. Like that's the other thing as well. In terms of rewiring your brain, like we're so conditioned from like 20 years of nothing but WWE that what you see on TV, they lead to certain things normally within a certain time frame as well. And AEW, it's like rewiring your brain. And there's a lot of tropes which are just they're not like super innovative out of nowhere. Like a lot of the tropes that they're doing are just from older wrestling. Like there's nothing new there. They're just bringing back stuff rather than everything being new. There is new stuff in there, but there's a lot of reverting to what worked in the past and bringing it back. Obviously now the big caveat being there's no live crowd to react to it. Also a massive plus, WWE have done it a tad, but AEW have done a really good job of featuring independent wrestlers, like giving them a gig on this as well. So that's a nice little touch as well. So thumbs up for that. But overall, Dynamite for me, their shows have been a lot more solid than WWE's. Monday Night Raw is doing a really good job of building to the new stars, but again the show's too long. SmackDown, it's just not for me. I guess, yeah, it's just not for me. I've completely tuned it out. I don't even see, like, my timeline doesn't really update me either. Like, again, like, show the complete interest. With Monday Night Raw, I normally will click to play a GIF, like multiple GIFs that come up on my timeline posted by people. I will look at those so I know what's happening. SmackDown, I don't even click the play button just to show my level of interest. It's just not there at all. NXT, I would click it. AEW would click it. It's just SmackDown. For some reason, I just don't want to click that play button. My investment is like totally not there. But again, AEW, I am in. I'm enjoying it. It's just, I know that moral conflict is coming at Double or Nothing when I'll be recording it. And I understand. I've got an understanding of reasons, and I know I'm speaking in a perfect world scenarios. Certain things would happen. It's not a perfect world, so we get this. So yeah. I have had to get a bit more political, but really, in terms of wrestling in lockdown, is it shit? It really does depend on your personal preferences here. AEW focusing so heavily on not really changing the product, what they're presenting in the ring that much, that's worked for me. It won't work for others. Same with Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, the different things they're focusing on will work for some and not for others. Like, I'm really digging them pushing the new stars. That's not going to work for everybody else, but I really like that aspect. For others, the show being 3 hours isn't an issue. For me, it is, like every single week. And again, I've already brought it up with SmackDown. The more sports entertainment-y things they focus on. Like, SmackDown is very WWE. It's just a lot of the WWE tropes I don't personally like that much. They are all there on SmackDown, and other people will be fine with them. As I said, some people are really into Mandy Rose and Otis. I am just there. Like, it's perfectly fine mid-card fodder. And yeah, it's harmless, and it's harmless fun, I guess I'll put it. I like that. NXT, I feel like it might be in the most trouble with me, because I know where my opinion is on the others. So like, yeah, with SmackDown, a total disregard. AEW totally in. Raw in the middle, in or out. NXT, I've got no idea. It seems to be like from week to week. I like one thing, I don't like another. The show's up and down in my investment, like completely up and down. It's an odd one, really. But yes, and of course, with the actual production of the empty arenas as well, the production side has gone really well, but it depends how much with the atmosphere as well. Like, the thing that really hits me with, be it AEW or SmackDown, for example, like, the thing that really hits me is when the bell rings, when the competitor gets their raised hand, there isn't that kind of boom that normally accompanies that, and that is really apparent to me, and it just takes the edge away a little bit. The thing that helps with AEW is the commentary, where in WWE they have stuck with the same method of commentary, and for me that actively hinders it. With AEW, Chris Jericho is amazing. His commentary. I absolutely love that man on commentary. Could listen to him and Tony Schiavone all day. I think they are fantastic. And it's just a shame that he has to go and do wrestling again. Because I think he's brilliant in that role. Also, just the image. Like this week, when I turned on Dynamite, he got a laugh out of me by just being there and just wearing clothes. Just his get-up, where I was just like, this is Chris Jericho's like coronavirus suit, where he's got his gloves on and he's got his full arm-length jacket, but he's not wearing anything under that. He's got a tie on, I think, but he's bare-chested. And he's just with his hair all straightened as well and down, shades on. This is like, the image made me laugh, and just looking at him, I laughed. It's like, yes, you are fantastic. Like, it made me laugh, but it was still in that way of he is like the top bad guy in this smarmy heel group. But I love him. I think he's fantastic. But yeah, for me, that's like the final kind of point, because the crowd is a big thing for me, which sometimes feels really awkward. Feels more so in Raw because they rely so heavily on certain tropes that they're having to make a bigger adjustment. Feels more natural in AEW, having the kind of like the workers or the indie stars at ringside does help. With WWE, kind of feels apparent, but the commentary is the number one thing. Like with AEW, I can enjoy the commentators. They come up with just stuff that makes me laugh. Raw and SmackDown and NXT, they've still got that super scripted nature to them. And I don't think they are as scripted as they have been in the past, but it's still pretty bad. And it really takes out of my enjoyment hearing that level of it, like the overproduced nature of it. Which is, again, another pet peeve. If you find AEW to be underproduced, that obviously gives a different thing. With Raw and SmackDown, if you find that, I personally find them to be overproduced still to this point here. Like, the commentators are a massive example of that. Like, that's been a trope with WWE for ages, though. Like, the SmackDown I grew up in had piped in everything, which was becoming super outdated at that point. And that's just a thing WWE do. And there was an idea of, well, where do we get crowd noise from? Do we just pipe it in? Or do we have people around the screen making noise as well for pay-per-views? And just like, no, every idea is kind of awkward. They rely so heavily on that reaction that it just feels awkward without it. And it's apparent. But again, for some people can see past that, so it's not that big a deal. Final point being the commentary. AEW, it's Chris Jericho makes me laugh every week. He just comes up with stuff. The way that he covered for a mistake as well, like he just took the piss out of it, where it was a Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian versus the Best Friends in a no disqualification match where they were using chairs and weapons, and at one point, I think it was Kip Sabian just tagged in Jimmy Havoc, or the other way around, and Chris Jericho's just like, so gentlemanly of them, just like in a no disqualification match, still doing a tag, like so gentlemanly and kind of them to adhere to that. Like a mistake happened. Obviously, they tagged in a no disqualification match. Yeah, and Chris Jericho immediately saw it, took the piss out of it, because that's one thing I've noticed as well in terms of covering the wrestling and able to shine a light on an error that happens, but just the way that he doesn't go, oh, that was bad, or like the commentary we see nowadays of, oh, I don't think he got all of that. The way Chris Jericho covers it keeps it within the story they're trying to tell and still gets the talent over. Where just listening to him, it's just like, oh, please, whenever it is that you unfortunately do have to stop, just please do commentary, because he's so good at it, at the core stuff. Like the point of it, he gets everybody over, which is just like the best thing for a commentator. Yeah. Anyway, I've rambled on about that enough. I've got an hour long. I wanted to go shorter than that because I am absolutely bloody knackered, and I started late. So anyway, thank you for listening to that ramble. I guess, do you want a conclusion to is it any good, this current wrestling? It depends on you. I can't give you a definitive answer. For me, I'm going off the WWE way of doing it. AEW's up my street. But I know but I will have to reassess when that moral conflict happens with AEW, where they are set. They're not going to be going live every week, according to the information. Again, we'll wait and see, but that is the information right now, which isn't as bad as going live every week, but I'm still not for it. So we'll see what happens when that moral conflict happens. Am I still able to enjoy AEW to the levels I am right now? And as well, will Chris Jericho be in commentary? That's like my big one. Like, in terms of all the shows, the big thing that, in terms of the empty arena matches, like the noise you hear the most because you don't hear the crowd, is the commentators. And in WWE, I don't like the way they produce them. In AEW, there's just a lot more natural flow and jest, and that really, really helps. So yeah, it's entertaining people being entertaining rather than scripted and told what to say, and that really helps for me. Anyway, I'll be back next Thursday to talk about something. I might do my best to try and book a guest. Oh, Dr. Zeusing it up. Yeah. But please check out the other shows here on LOP Radio. Live after AEW is our AEW post-show Dynamite After Dark with Jamin and Jeff. That show for this week is already up on YouTube if you want to go listen to it. On the Laws of Pain YouTube, it's already there. Fridays is the Legacy Series. It's not the Legacy Series. It's WWF Legacy Series. Myths Fan and Mystic are back to that series talking about, what was it this week? It was a main event or something from the 80s. Because the Legacy Series of WWF slowly working their way through. So informative. So much effort put into the research for it. Highly worth watching. They're shows I hold back on immediately uploading because it's like, oh, if I ever find the time, I could just edit those, like do a full-on edit and it'd be awesome. Anyway, Saturdays and Sundays are reserved for pay-per-view slots of coverage of that. Tuesdays is Kingdom of Honor with Jam and his friend Jeff talking whatever wrestling stuff. Also on the Laws of Pain YouTube channel, we have got the All Night Long Wrestling podcast, which has made its way over with exclusive interviews and wrestling jabber. I think 2 interviews are already up. And this week they talked about something. I think it was Flair Steamboat. Anyway, proof I'm tired. I can't remember anything. So anyway, I'll be live next week. Thank you for listening. With that, I bid you adieu. I've just seen... Have I seen comments? I don't know. I'm so tired, my eyes are blurry, so I can't actually say anything. I can see the red rectangle for me to end the stream. I'm that tired. So I do apologise if you want me to respond. I can see the comments aren't that long. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll be back next week. Well, amazing end to the show. I'll be back next week. With that, I bid you adieu. Adios.